Greetings, everyone. Today, the Gospel reading is a passage from John chapter 10, where Jesus talks about the fact that he is the Good Shepherd, the true shepherd, and that he has this intimate relationship with his sheep. And then the psalm set for today is Psalm 23, which is well known and I'm sure greatly loved by all of us. And of course, Psalm 23 is "The Lord is my shepherd." So the theme is God or Jesus as the shepherd and we the sheep, and the relationship that the sheep have with the shepherd, and what the shepherd does for the sheep, and how the sheep respond to the shepherd and to the shepherd's voice, and so on and so forth. So I am going to read to you a version of Psalm 23, which I wrote some years ago, and I'm going to talk about some of the statements that Jesus makes in John chapter 10 and some of the things that Psalm 23 suggests about David's feelings about his relationship with God, the shepherd, and his life experience and his confidence in God as the shepherd to provide for him. And then I'm going to ask some questions and really just invite us all to ask to what extent these things are true in our lives and in our experience, and what we believe, and whether we concur with what David says, and whether we agree with what Jesus says in John chapter 10, and whether those things are true in our experience, and whether our relationship with Jesus as the Good Shepherd is everything that Jesus implies that it should be. And so the idea will be then just simply for us to work out what we believe about God or Jesus as the Good Shepherd, and what we believe about our relationship and the benefits we receive, if there are any, from being the sheep, and what we expect from God and what has proved true. Anyway, without further ado, let me read the psalm, my own version of the psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. Because you are my shepherd, it is impossible for me to be short of anything I need. You provide for me in every way, making me to lie down in green pastures, leading me beside quiet waters, restoring my soul. You give me rest and refreshment, peace and contentment. You surround me with beauty. You sustain me and renew my strength. You lead me in the way of righteousness and guard me in times of danger, so I am not afraid. Your presence comforts me. You are with me always through all my struggles, in times of darkness when death seems close. Nothing can separate me from your love. You honor me at your table, so that those who have wished me harm are amazed and envious. You anoint my head with the oil of your favor, and you bless me richly so that my cup overflows. I have all I need. I am so well provided for that my life cannot hold all the good things you pour upon me. I know that goodness and love will accompany me every step of the way, and I will dwell in your house forever. So let me clarify that is just a kind of interpretation of Psalm 23. And I'm not necessarily saying that everything I have said in my interpretation of the Psalm is 100% true for me in my situation right now. But we'll talk about that now. Let's talk about what John chapter 10 says about the shepherd and the sheep and the relationship between them, and then talk about what David says about the shepherd in Psalm 23 and his own response to the shepherd and his feeling of confidence and so on. Jesus says, John chapter 10, I know my sheep hear my voice, my sheep follow me, I give them eternal life, no one will snatch them out of my hand. I call my own sheep by name and lead them out, that is, out of the sheepfold. I go ahead of my sheep. My sheep know my voice. Whoever enters the sheepfold by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. I have come that my sheep may have life and have it abundantly. I lay down my life for the sheep. My sheep know me intimately. Ultimately, there will be one flock, one shepherd. And David says in Psalm 23, the shepherd provides me with everything I need to be nourished, comfortable, safe, refreshed, directed in right paths. When I walk through a dark valley, I do not fear any evil, because he is with me and he comforts me. The shepherd shows me favor and honors me in the presence of my enemies, so that I have an abundance and I experience life in its abounding fullness of joy and strength for spirit, soul, and body. Perhaps a way of describing this abundant life is a greater appreciation of the richness of life. I'm convinced, David says, that goodness and mercy will follow me right through my life till the end of my days, and I will dwell in God's house for as long as I live. So, some questions. My sheep hear my voice. Well, I guess we try to hear God's voice and to understand what God is saying in the midst of our daily lives and situations where we want to do the right thing. Jesus says, I know my sheep. Well, I don't think we have any doubt about that, and it gives us great comfort and confidence. Jesus knows his sheep, and he knows his sheep individually and intimately. I think maybe we are convinced about that. My sheep follow me. Well, again, we're trying to the best of our ability and the strength that God gives us to follow Jesus, to know who Jesus is and what Jesus is saying and how best to follow him in the context of our ordinary individual lives. The next statement is wonderful. No one will snatch them out of my hand. And that is one of the wonderful promises that I hold on to and that I'm ready to accept implicitly. No one will snatch me or any other of God's sheep out of God's hand. Nothing has the power to do that. Jesus says, I call my own sheep by name and lead them out of the sheepfold. And that implies intimacy. I call my sheep by name and I lead them out, not a whole mob of people, but I lead them out individually of the sheepfold. And it also gives us a great sense of security that that God is calling us and that God is leading us. Although we don't always know where God is leading us to, and we don't always experience God in front of us, directing us, and so on. I go ahead of my sheep, Jesus says. Well, that's wonderful. So if that is true, then there is no situation that we can find ourselves in where Jesus hasn't been already. He's paving the way. He's leading us. He's ahead of us. And so he knows what's in store. That's good. Whoever enters the sheepfold by me will be saved. And we assume that what is meant there is whoever comes into God's kingdom through Jesus will be secure eternally. And of course, we might believe that there are other ways to get into God's kingdom as well, but we're talking about getting into the kingdom through Jesus, because Jesus is the way that has been provided for us and to us. Whoever enters the sheepfold by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. Well, that's very comforting. There's a kind of freedom that is offered to the sheep. They will be able to come into the sheepfold and go out of the sheepfold, and they will have the freedom to live with a sense of security and a sense that everything's going to be okay. I have come that my sheep may have life and have it abundantly. And as I've said, perhaps that means I've come in order that my sheep might have a greater appreciation of the richness of life. And maybe that's true for us. We have a greater appreciation of the richness of life because of our faith, because we believe, because we are trying to trust. I lay down my life for the sheep. I think we'd all accept that is what Jesus did. He laid down his life in order that we might know the truth about God and God's amazing infinite love. My sheep know me intimately. Well, we do try to live in a relationship with God, in a relationship with Jesus. We do try to know him, but we're on a journey, and we're not completely trusting, and we don't never know God or Jesus as well and as intimately as we could. There will be one flock and one shepherd. Well, that is inspiring, and that is very, very comforting, and just so wonderful. Ultimately there will be one flock and one shepherd, and that God is calling people out of sheepfolds all over the place, and in the end there will be just one flock with one shepherd. And the psalm, the shepherd provides me with everything I need to be nourished, comfortable, safe, refreshed, and directed in the right paths, and so on and so forth. And maybe we should ask some questions relating to Psalm 23. Does God provide me with everything I need? Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Is that why I follow Christ? Is that why I believe in God? Or does it not matter that I don't always get everything that I think I need? Do I feel that I have sufficient? So I'm not conscious of a great gap in my life, and I'm not restless and complaining and feeling that I've missed out. Do I feel that I have enough in every way? And I repeat something which was part of a message some months back. Am I able to say, as I look at my life and everything I am and everything I have, this is good, this is enough, this is all I need? Because I think that's what David expresses in Psalm 23. Do I sense God's presence in times of darkness and struggle? Do I feel comforted? Do I feel confident that God is with me? Do I feel favored and honored by God? And I'm not meaning to suggest that God favors me over other people and gives me more than other people. I'm not suggesting that God holds me in higher regard than he holds other people. But do I feel that I have been the recipient of special favor and by God, and that I have been honored by God, lifted high by God? Do I have a greater appreciation of the richness of life because of my faith and my awareness of God? Do I believe and trust that goodness and mercy will follow me for the rest of my life? And what does this mean? Goodness and mercy. What am I really trusting in? Is my response to this, well, whatever happens, I will trust that God is with me and I will be okay? Ultimately, it's all about contentment and trust and believing in God's presence and God's purposes, and that everything is okay. And I'm not going to experience a bed of roses. I'm not going to have everything working out wonderfully all the time, but I have this great confidence that God will be there for me, will be with me, will undertake for me, and whatever, through the good, through the bad, through my struggles, through the happy times, I trust that God will see me through, and that even though I might not experience his presence as a reality, I believe that God will be with me, and so it's all okay. So I encourage you to look at John chapter 10 if you like, to read Psalm 23 if you like, and just ask yourself where you stand in relation to these texts and the things that David says about the shepherd and the sheep, and the things that Jesus says about the shepherd and the sheep. What is true for you? Who is God for you? Is God, or is Jesus, the good shepherd, the true shepherd? And what does that mean in your life? Amen. And God bless.